Good morning, student. This is our second part of history chapter. The chapter title is The Making of Global World. In the first part, we have discussed about the pre-modern world, how the globalization in trade and commerce flourished in the European state. Then we have discussed the Silk routes, the importance of Silk routes in the trade and commerce around the world. Then we have discussed about the food, the variety of foods, how it has traveled from one place to another, and with the variety of names. Then we have all continued the next heading, that it was the conquest, disease and trade. As far as the disease, we have discussed that how the Spanish people used the smallpox as a tool of conquer the America after its discovery. And then we are going to discuss further influence of this worldwide epidemic, that until the 19th century, poverty and hunger were common in Europe. That in the late 19th century, just because of this epidemic, that what had happened, just because of the communication trade has flourished, and the people brought the variety of cultural values and the goods and services, but they also brought with them the various germs and the epidemic. And up to the 19th century, the poverty and hunger were the common in Europe. That how the European state faced the poverty and hunger until the 19th century. Cities were crowded and deadly diseases were widespread. Why? There was a poverty and the hunger, that even the cities were so much crowded by the people, and it was so much populated. And we know that for the infectional disease we have to maintain distance, as in this corona period also. What are best remedy to overcome from this disease? That we have to maintain the social distancing, so because it is an infectional disease. At the same way, in the 19th century in Europe, the deadly diseases, which was an infectional disease, it was widespread, especially the overcrowded area, and the cities were overcrowded, and that it became an epidemic. Religious conflicts were common. Now the another thing that which was so, you can say, a significant point for the chaos among the people in European during the 19th century, that now not only the epidemic were widespread, but the religious conflicts were common in Europe, and religious dissenters were persecuted. Now what are the religious dissenters means one who refused to accept established beliefs and practices. That at the 19th century in Europe, there were the people who were not ready to follow already established rules and regulation, or the orthodox mentality. They were also persecuted, they were also punished by the people. Now thousands therefore fled Europe for America, and this was the reason that why the thousands of people just run away from Europe to America. Here by the 18th century, plantation worked by slaves captured in Africa were growing cotton and sugar for European markets. Now at the same time, in the 18th century, the plantation labor or the worker as slaves also captured in Africa, and they were forced to grow the cotton and sugar to transport the European markets. Now until well into the 18th century, China and India were among the world's richest country. One of the most significant point, that what cultural background and economical background our country was having, that uh, up to the 18th century, China and India were among the world's richest countries. That how economically powerful we were with the China, and they were also preeminent in Asian trade. However, from the 15th century, China is said to have restricted overseas contacts and retreated into isolation. China's reduced role and the rising importance of the Americans gradually moved the center of the world trade westwards. Europe now emerged as a center of the world trade. Now, what had happened as China lost its contacts, overseas contacts, and it became a part of isolation. So, now the America got the gradual, you can say, development into the west sides for the economical purposes, and Europe now emerged. Earlier, India and China was having significant, you can say, economic development, and after that, Europe emerged as a center of the world trade. The Europe became a most important center for the world trade. Now, we will continue that the 19th century. Now we are continuing the globalization around the world, and we are tracing the history that what was the, you can say, situation around the world in European state and India, China. That was the 19th century. It means 1815 to 1914. Now we will discuss that the world changed profoundly in the 19th century. Economic, political, social, and cultural. Technological factors interacted in complex ways to transform societies and reshape external relations. That up to the 19th century, now so much of economical, political, social, cultural, and technological factors, all factors interacted in a complex way, and the result of this, that the a unique type of society transformed and reshaped external relation. And not only our own society transformed just because of the globalization in trade and commerce, the external relation with the another country also reshape and transform. Economists identify three types of movements or flows within the international economic exchange. Now if we see that how the economics have seen that period of time, that what type and how many types of money flow was there in exchange, economical exchange. The first is the flow of trade, which in the 19th century referred largely to trade in goods, example cloth or wheat. The first flow the economics have found in the 19th century, that the flow in the cloth or wheat. Then the second is the flow of labor, the migration of people in search of employment. The third flow is the movement of capital for short term or long term investment or long distances. So these were the mainly three types of flows during the 19th century, which was noticed by the economist. Now, all three flows were closely interwoven and affected people's lives more deeply now than ever before. Now, the interconnections could sometimes be broken. For example, labor migration was often more restricted than goods or capital flows. Yet, it helps us to understand the 19th century world economy better if we look at the three flows together. Now, we will discuss that a world economy takes shapes, that how when we study the globalization around the world, then that how the world economy, if we are saying world economy, it means we are talking about the major powerful economically developed nations around the world, that how the world's economy reshaped and take its particular shape. A good place to start is the changing pattern of food production and consumption in industrial Europe. Traditionally, countries like to be self sufficient in food, but in the 19th century, Britain, now we are talking about a new European state, the Britain, that Britain's self sufficiency in food meant lower living standard and social conflict. Why was this so? That when we are studying that how the world economy taken shape, when we study the globalization, then we are discussing the particular nation Britain here, that in Britain that time the self sufficiency in food, and it meant that lower living standard and the social conflict among the people. Why it was so, we will discuss here. That population growth from the late 18th century had increased the demand for food grains in Britain. That we are studying the case study of Britain, that when up to the 18th century the population increased rapidly in Britain, and when the population increased, it means in Britain the demand for food grains also increased. As urban center expanded and industry grew, the demand for agriculture products went up, pushing up food grains prices under pressure from landed groups The government also restricted the import of corn. The laws allowing the government to do this were commonly known as the corn laws. Unhappy with high food prices, industrialists and urban dwellers forced the abolition of the corn law. That what had happened, that as the population increased rapidly into the 18th century in Britain, the food grain demands also increased, and as urban center expanded and industry grew, and the industrialization was also rapidly, you can say, growing that time. Then the demand, how the industry will work, how the industry will develop. Industry, it means secondary sector. The secondary sector will be developed if the primary sector, it means the agriculture sector, will be having the proper raw material. So demand for agriculture product also increased, and it was the result that the farmers were under pressures, and they were forced by the landlords and the government to import, to produce more and more crops. And at the same time, the government of Britain restrict the import of corn. That the government banned that in Britain during the 18th century, the import of corn will be restricted. No import will be there in Britain of corn. Then what was its and the after this, the laws allowing the government to do this were commonly known as the corn law. And government of Britain also introduced the corn laws, by which there will be no import of corn in Britain. So after this, the unhappy with high food prices, the food prices increase in Britain, and after that industrialists and urban dwellers who were not happy, and they forced that the corn law should be abolished, should be stopped or ended. After the corn laws were scrapped, food could be imported into Britain more cheaply than it could be produced within the country. And after the corn law just stopped, then the food could be imported into Britain more cheaply than it could be produced within the country. It was a situation that the food which was imported into Britain, it was more cheaper than it can be produced within the country. That in Britain to produce some crops was so costly, and it was costly than to import any crop from the other country. Now British agriculture was unable to compete with the imports, and the situation became much adverse, that the British agriculture was not able to compete with the importer. Vast areas of land were now left uncultivated. Why this was held? Why this worst situation was faced by Britain? That within the country, they when they produce crops, it becomes so costly, even it was costly than to import anything from the other country, as it was happened because there were so many pieces of land left uncultivated in Britain, and thousands of men and women were thrown out of work. And now the agriculturists and the labor who worked in agriculture field, they were also thrown out of their work. They flocked to the cities or migrated overseas. Now when these agriculturist labor were not having work on the agriculture field, they were forced to run away towards the city, or they migrated to the overseas areas in search of work. Now as food prices fell, consumption in Britain rose from the mid 19th century. Faster industrial growth in Britain also led to higher incomes and therefore more food imports. Around the world, in Eastern Europe, Russia, America, Australia, lands were cleared and food production expanded to meet the British demand. That at the same time, when the food prices fell down, consumption in Britain rose. Obviously, if the people are getting low rate food prices, then definitely the consumer will consume more and more crops. That's why consumption in Britain arises. From the mid 19th century, faster industrial growth in Britain also led to the higher income. And From the mid of 19th century, there was a huge industrial growth in Britain, and it resulted into the higher incomes of the people and therefore more food imports around the world. In Eastern Europe, Russia, America, and Australia, lands were cleared and food production expanded to meet the British demand. The demand became so much high that not only in Britain but Eastern Europe, Russia, America, and Australia, these countries cleared their so much piece of land for only one purpose, and it was to produce more and more crop, because there was a great demand in British areas, countries, to meet the food crops demand or to meet the people's consumption. Now, then it was not enough merely to clear land for agriculture, but for these countries it is not enough that they only clear the land for the agricultural purpose. Railway, now they are developing variety of crops to meet the British demand, but the another thing that how they will export or import the agricultural product, so that's why they need to develop a proper network so that they can export or import the products. So railway were needed to link the agricultural region to the ports. Now the another objective for these countries that they have to develop their railway network so that they can link the agricultural region to the ports. New harbors had to be built and old ones expanded to ship the new cargoes. People had to settle on the lands to bring them under cultivation. This meant building homes and settlement. All these activities in turn required capital and labor. Now we are talking about that in these countries they have to develop their agriculture field, then they need the proper railway network, and the new ports and the harbor. Then all this work can be done with the help of money and labor. That's mean building of homes and settlement for the people who are working in these projects. All these activities in turn required capital, money and labor. Capital flowed from financial centers such as London. Now at the situation, the London emerged as a capital helper, and it has helped these countries as a financial support. The demand for labor in places where labor was in short supply, as in America and Australia, led to more migration. Now in these countries, there were some countries where the labor is having shortage, so they were also having, as in America and Australia, led to more migration. So in these countries, so much of migrated people reach there to got in the search of work in America and Australia. Now, nearly 50 million people emigrated from Europe to America and Australia in the 19th century. All over the world, some 150 million are estimated to have left their homes, crossed oceans and vast distances over land in search of better future. Now, it was a factual study that up to the 19th century, nearly 50 million people emigrated from Europe. They emigrated from Europe to America in search of work, because in America and Australia there was a less availability of labor. And all over the world, some 150 millions are estimated to left their homes, crossed oceans and vast distances in search of better future or earnings. And Indian migrated people are also involved in it. Now that thus by 1890 a global agriculture economy had taken shape, accompanied by complex changes in labor movement patterns, capital flows, ecologies, and technology. Food no longer came from nearby villages or towns, but from thousands of miles away. It was not grown by a peasant tilling his own land, but by an agricultural worker perhaps recently arrived who was now working on a large farm that only a generation ago had most likely been a forest. It was transported by railway, built for very purpose, and by ships which were increasingly manned in these decades by low paid workers from southern Europe, Asia, Africa, and Caribbean. So you can see that how the you can say people migrated from one country to another, how they migrated and in search of job, and they migrated from, you can say, Europe, Asia, Africa and Caribbean area. In They went in search of job in America and Australia. So it is all about the now role of technology, that when we study